Well, hello, welcome to the next episode of the Tattoo Teacher podcast. On today's episode, wherever you are listening and what time frame, if it's on the train, the bus, or in your car, welcome. We've got Darren Coxon, the amazing Darren Coxon, who has been in the education world for 25 years or so. Most of the last decade he spent in education, in management, leading schools, including Brighton College, international schools. He has been a chief operating officer of British Education in Bahrain. He has been a director of schools for FOFA Education, interim headmaster in the Brackenfield School in the UK, and also a vice principal and a head of department as we go down the CV. But currently, Darren is now the founder of Coxon AI, and this is a new thing. AI, we'll talk about it, we'll get into it. But he's working with the Council of British International Schools, the Headmasters Conference, and the National College on their AI training programs. So Darren, welcome. Thanks for joining me. I truly appreciate it.
It's a huge pleasure, Phil. Nice to be here.
Now, we've talked about, I've given you a CV, so if anyone's got any job openings, hey, send your email to Darren, and I'm sure he'll look at it in due time. But more importantly, part of the Tattoo Teacher podcast is we are trying to get to know the person behind the educator as well. So not only is there the things that Darren has done and will continue to do in the future, Darren is also a husband and father of 3 children. And yep. I'm not going to tell you the ins and outs of the children because that's his domain. I've got 3 children, about to be a grandfather, so it's an amazing world we live in. But Darren, where are you at this point in time?
So I'm actually until last year, as you said, I was the chief operating officer of schools group in Bahrain. So I moved from Bahrain back to the UK. So basically I moved from kind of 40-degree heat to North Yorkshire, which is north of England. So it's kind of one extreme to the other. But that's why I'm based up in the north of England now.
Fantastic. Well, I must say I've been converted to Yorkshire tea. Currently got a international student staying with us. And she goes, we've got to get the Yorkshire tea. And now that's all agree. Any other tea, is second to that, that's for sure.
Yeah. Best tea, Yorkshire tea for sure.
Now, I've shared about some of the stuff that you've done. I've shared that you're a husband and you're a father, and you've got you do so much. But what is your why? Like, what's the why behind all this, Darren? Why do you do all this?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess the why is really links to where the world has moved, not just where it's moving, where it's moved in the last sort of, I suppose, in some respects, 50 odd years, and how the fact that education hasn't moved at all, really. And I think what we're seeing is an increasing that students and teachers, to be fair. So, I mean, I kind of lump them together because they're all in the same building together, and adults are just kids who got a bit older. We still have the same psychological issues and the same fears and the same anxieties. It's just we kind of mask them better than kids do. Essentially,
Absolutely.
we've got a system which is stretching. Is a world which is moving at 1 million miles an hour in a school system which isn't. And essentially, what we've got is we've got the people in the building who are being stretched like a piece of elastic. And I think my why is really working out. And AI is just a tool, to be fair. I mean, it's not necessarily even the answer, like the answer, but it's just one answer potentially. We've basically got these individuals who inhabit a building, inhabit a school, an education system, who are being increasingly pulled apart by where they are relative to where the world is heading. And I think it's up to people like me and you and those more experienced educators who've been around for a long time and kind of seen a lot, to come up with some answers, because it's easy to talk about the problem. And there are lots of people who go onto social media and who talk a lot about the problem, but they don't really give any solutions. And so I think my why is just trying to work out a bunch of solutions to help people to navigate the tensions and the fault line, I suppose, that's developing within school systems, so we don't all fall down the crack.
Yeah, that's. I mean, coming from a teacher's point of view, 100% agree with you. Is everything is moving so quickly. The schools are stagnant. The system is stagnant for whatever reason. There's probably some very valid reasons why things can't change.
There are.
There are also probably some reasons that just need to be just squashed. I'm assuming. Being in management, I'm sure you've probably had many of those conversations. Are the school leaders that you're speaking with, are they frustrated?
I'm not. Yeah, I mean, I think they're generally frustrated. Just not necessarily anything to do with AI. I mean, it's just being ahead of a school. I've been ahead of 2 schools and vice principal of 3, sort of led 3 schools operationally. And it's a very frustrating job because you have a lot of external pressures and there are lots of vested interests within education. So, I mean, one of the main reasons why education struggles to change is because there are so many interests wrapped up in keeping the status quo that it makes it very, very hard to change. I mean, the exam boards is just one example. The university's another. You've got the publishers as another. You've got the inspectorates, the governments. You've got so many external pressures and vested interests in keeping things as they are. It's actually very difficult to change wholesale. And so I talk a lot about evolution. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it kind of works with this. I kind of talk about evolution rather than revolution. I think psychologically we're not ready for revolution in our schools. I think it's potentially very dangerous and very damaging. If we suddenly change everything overnight, I think people will struggle to cope. So I think we need to look at how we start to evolve some of our systems and some of our practices and our philosophy and our pedagogy and our curriculum. Because I think then we might start to see a positive shift. Because I think the problem is that if we suddenly talk about disruption, and I like that word less and less now, because I think it can be quite an aggressive word. If we talk too much about disruption, we actually create potentially quite a lot of fear in our students and teachers. And I think what tends to happen when people are scared is they tend to retreat. It's just fight or flight. Most teachers and most students don't have the energy or the resources to fight, so they tend to kind of retreat. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing. I think we're seeing a bit of sort of heads being buried in sand. And I think we're seeing a little bit of kind of nervousness about really disrupting. So it's very easy for people like myself who are no longer managing. I'm not inside schools anymore since sort of June of last year. So it's been about a year since I've been actually inside a school as a head of a school, as a head teacher. Quite easy for us to stand on the outside to say, let's smash the system and let's break the school system apart. I just don't think it's very realistic. So I think we need to look at how we evolve things and change what we can, and then hope that, or expect that in time, governments and exam boards and universities, etc., will have to catch up, because I think what will happen is students will start to vote with their feet because they'll just see that the system's increasingly irrelevant to them.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing from from the coalface. Teachers, kind of daily conversations are what is the point? Where is this going? Why society's changing? Why isn't schools? So do you think? And being we first met over conversations of AI and the changes that the possibilities of it, the joys that it might bring to a classroom. And look, I know a number of teachers are not on board and they're not liking it, or they're worried about it, but there's a whole range of things. Do you think that the way AI has come about is going to be the push that education needs to make some of these changes?
I think it'll be a push. But yes, I think ultimately it will, because I say this a lot, and you kind of know what I'm like, because how I post, how I speak, and how I post, it's the same thing. I don't have a corporate persona. So I just speak my mind, and sometimes people agree and sometimes people disagree, and that's absolutely fine. But I mean, basically, my kind of main premise around all this is like AI really doesn't care what you think about it. You know, AI does not care what your thoughts are as an educator, as a leader. You can really dislike it. You can really disagree with it. You can think it's ethically wrong. You can think it's destroying the planet. Well, you know, whatever legitimate, potentially, certainly legitimate concerns that you have, it's going ahead, whether you like it or not. In the same way that the calculator went ahead, the personal computer went ahead, quite frankly, the printing press went ahead. If you can go way back to the 15th century, to the invention of the printing press, middle of the 15th century, and I'm sure there are lots of monks who were scribal monks who felt very similar to the printing press that we do about AI. So you can think as much as you like negatively about it, but it's going ahead. So it's your choice right now. Either you really work out how you can leverage it to your and your students' advantage, or you can sit in the corner and complain. And I choose the former. You know, I choose to embrace it. I don't agree with it all. I think that there are some very shady elements to it. I think there's some very shady people involved at the very top of AI. But I do think it's quite important that we do embrace it fully. A lot of the teachers, I mean, they're nervous, but I think it's because many teachers like that place. You know, I get some criticism because I can be a bit negative and a bit down on teachers. I mean, I was a teacher. I was in the classroom for 20 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a tough job. And it's getting tougher.
Yeah, I would
I mean,
agree.
It's getting much, much, much tougher. But I think if you've got the opportunity with a tool like AI to buy yourself a bit of time, you know, even just something as simple as doing some lesson planning or some schema work planning, or creating a little bot to support formative feedback on an essay. So you know your students have a tool to help them, which you can do now. I mean, you know, I've been doing quite a lot of work on these little bots. I think you should be embracing it, and you should be doing everything that you possibly can to find out as much as you can about it, because the challenge that teachers will have in the next 5 years is that many teachers will, quite frankly, be less relevant across many subjects to their students. And that's whether the teachers like it or not. Now, I would say your subject is much more protected because you have a practical subject in DT.
Yeah.
But I think there are lots of subjects, and I would count mine as one of them. You know, I'm an English literature teacher. There are lots of subjects that actually will become quite easy to teach, at least to pass level, you know, at least to kind of grade B, GCSE, or grade C, grade BA level. I think getting the top grade 9 or the A star is more challenging. I think you need people. I think you need an understanding of nuance and intention and insight that I think AI is going to be a while before it gets there, but it is getting there. But I think to teach the basics, to teach what kids need to get them through the exams, I think AI is almost there now. And if that's the case, if you've got a bot that's kind of very engaging and very personable, that has good voice, you know, we've already seen just in the last few weeks with OpenAI and with Google that the voice is getting better and better. If you've got that ability to have a very well tailored AI, which is really friendly and is always on, is always there, is kind of always listening, and is always kind of on your side, you know, academically. I actually think that and then students are like, and I know this is happening because even my 8-year-old is kind of learning more a lot of the time from AI than he is from his teachers. I think that's boys of my son's age, 8, 9, 10, or girls, children of my son's age, who are starting to grow up with these tools, will more and more start to think, I can learn everything that my teacher's teaching me using some bots. So why am I listening to this? Because I'm going into the lesson knowing what she or he is teaching me. So what am I doing here? And I think because I personally think kids now are a lot more savvy than they were certainly my age. But even when I started teaching in '98, so my first year in the classroom was 1998. Even now, in the last 25 years, there's been a shift. They're just more savvy and they're more aware of the world because of social media, whatever other reason. I just think that they're going to more and more think, what am I doing here? Why am I listening to this person? So I think schools and teachers are going to have to slightly reinvent themselves. So if they don't genuinely think not all teachers, I mean, I think there's always going to be a need for brilliant, inspiring people in the classroom. People need people after all. But it's what the smaller people need the bigger people for. That's what I think we need to be really seriously considering at the moment.
Yeah, you make a really good point. I mean, I looked at, I started teaching just after the internet was released as such to the general population. And the information was there, it was plentiful. We didn't need to go to the library. We didn't need to ask the librarian. We didn't need to understand the Dewey Decimal System. We would just say what we wanted, and then we had the ability to search to find what was useful to us. So I definitely see your point. And the kids being savvy, yeah, they want to know the why. Like, why am I doing this? What's it going? How is it going to help me? What's the purpose? Am I doing it just for an exam? If so, just tell me what I need to know to pass.
Yeah.
And why shouldn't I have my mobile phone out?
Yeah, exactly.
So there's all those things, and yeah, there are teachers who will, I think, or who do now, I know personally, who struggle with this mindset that these kids, and some deem it as defiant, but I see it more as they're exploring. They want to understand the world that they live in, and they want to understand or at least where they're headed. And if they don't get the answers, they get frustrated, just like you or I. If we don't get the answers that we need, we get frustrated. So, And you mentioned, the chatbots. Like, how are you seeing them deployed in schools or with the councils that you work with?
Yeah, so I think what I'm starting to see, and literally only just because this is something I've only a month or so been kind of developing more seriously. I think I'm seeing what's quite interesting is the book that I wrote, released sort of 6 weeks or so ago. Lots of people I've had several hundred, probably about 600, 700 or 800 people have got hold of the copy of the book, which is great. But what I'm seeing is that people are kind of taking the idea and they're adapting it, not just academically, not just for a specific subject, I just read one today, someone's looking at high performance learning and how they're adapting a bot to kind of lead students through the high performance learning kind of mentality and teach us through the high performance learning mentality. So I think that tells me that what we have here is the potential to have a tool which is kind of infinitely adaptable. And you can really make it bespoke. I'll release it in the next day or two because I've just been working on it in the background. But literally just a bot on one poem. That's specific, that you can actually train the bot. Or maybe if it's a comparative poem, maybe on 2 poems. Maybe you want students to do a comparative analysis of 2 poems. And so you train the bot on those 2 poems. And what the beauty of this, I think, is it's not that the bot is kind of taking them like Khan Academy style, step by step, which I'm not really sure I necessarily think that's very useful. But if the student has the book or the poem or the essay or the whatever to work through, they've just got this bot sitting beside them. And at any time they could say, I'm stuck on this. Can you just kind of talk me through? And the AI can say, yeah, sure, let's go into this. And the way I've trained this bot on this poem is it's quite Socratic, and it won't just give you the answer. It will say, okay, let's look at these 2 words here, or let's just take this first word. What does that kind of, what's that? What emotions, what thoughts does that give you? Okay, let's add this second word in, and let's think about the relationship between those 2 words, which is exactly what a good teacher will do. Having taught English for many, many years, you literally work at word level and punctuation level, and you say, okay, let's take this first word, let's put this second word beside it. What does that do to the first word, and what does it do to the combination of the 2 words? The AI can do that really, really well. So I think that's what I'm starting to see with these what I call course bots, is that we're starting to already see the ability to make them very nuanced. And lots of teachers that I'm seeing and that are publishing stuff now on LinkedIn and are kind of giving me feedback via DM, they're saying actually, really good example. One teacher actually used it for her son. Her son was preparing for an exam, year 8, an entrance exam for going into senior secondary school. It's common entrance maybe. And actually what he had done is he'd taken a bot that I created for GCSE science, but because of the way large language models work, it could kind of dumb it down to year 8 level. So he said he said it was brilliant, and he absolutely flew through the exam because actually he had this bot beside him that could work at a higher level than he needed, but was able to actually kind of tone it down and actually talk him through how to prepare for his common entrance exam. So I think that's where I'm really quite excited, because I think that gives us the opportunity to create really, really bespoke AIs that are quite narrow in focus and that are trained on a specific exam or a specific poem or a specific syllabus, that can actually be quite knowledgeable and quite accurate as well, because it really does reduce the hallucinations hugely.
Yeah, because I was just about to ask. I said, because you've talked about chatbots and that build on large language models, but you've also talked about giving them specific information and I guess putting up guardrails to stop the chatbot going off on a tangent. I mean, we've heard just in the media very recently about some of the mistakes Gemini was making, where it was telling people to keep cheese on the pizza. Eat rocks and use a non-toxic glue to keep cheese on the pizza. So
and the best one was, it's fine to have your dog in a hot car, because actually the temperature inside the car and outside the car will remain constant, because it's taking humorous posts from Reddit, and it's presenting them as facts. It's a real huge own goal by Google, that.
Yeah, and it's really, I find it very interesting that people are cherry picking, because I've used Gemini, I've used OpenAI, I've used Claude, I've used a number of them, and yes, they do occasionally make mistakes, but it seems that if you are asking it very obtuse questions, the more likely it is to make something up.
You're absolutely right. I mean, it's very easy to make an AI go wrong, and then you can point to it and go, why are we bothering? But actually, I think what that shows is a kind of almost like a bit of Schadenfreude, but in the wrong way. It's like, well, it's like the kind of told you so, told you it wasn't very good. Well, of course it's not very good if you're going to make it not be very good. Just use it. So I talk about the Pareto principle. I find it really helpful, actually, when I talk about AI using a large language model personally for my own work. I use the Pareto principle quite a lot. So basically what I say is, look, it's of what I do in the week, 80% I wouldn't let anywhere near AI, because it would just make me look foolish. Or for example, everything that you'll read online, I might have done a bit of research using Perplexity, but when I write, it's me. So you'll never see an article, you'll never see a blog post. I just don't use AI, because that is part of the 80% that I don't allow AI anywhere near. I mean, maybe in future when it's better, I might, but right now I just don't like. And I read articles on various publications, online publications, and kind of fairly serious influencers. And I think that's ChatGPT wrote that. So I'm sorry, but I'm not going to read it. I refuse to read something like that, because I could get ChatGPT to write it for myself. Why do I need you to put the prompt into ChatGPT when I can do that myself? So I won't use AI to write with, but I will use it a lot for planning and iteration and brainstorming and a lot of process writing. So the 20% that I use it for will give me 80% gains. So it's like, I'll use it hard. I'll push hard into that 20%. And as a result, actually, I find something that would normally have taken me a day will probably take me an hour. or so actually the 80% could be 200% often, to be fair, because actually I can do something which would take me a long time. I can actually do it in a really short space of time, like taking massive amounts of survey data. I did a piece of work for an Indian school a couple of weeks ago, and it was a massive data set, 6,000 students. It was five campus school, so a massive 6,000 student data set. I used the new version, so I used ChatGPT 4.0 because Google AI Studio just couldn't, even though it has a million token model, it just fell apart. But as soon as I put it into into ChatGPT 4.0, it did a really good job. And so it was actually analyzing, and it was giving me really good data and give it a good analysis, good visualizations, did some action, the structure of the action plan, which I then overlaid with my own ideas at the end. But it must have saved me. I mean, I'm not kidding you. It probably took me a half a day's work, but that could have easily been a full week. So, it's definitely seeing this kind of 80-20 rule work out really well. And I say to people, look, if you're going to focus on the 80% and then go, oh, look, AI doesn't do this, this, and this, it makes you look foolish, I think. And it makes you look kind of mealy-mouthed and a bit kind of, it just makes you look very sort of glass half empty. And I think people soon get tired of hearing that. I mean, there are 2 or 3 influencers on LinkedIn who are constantly doing that. And I've even noticed that people are becoming less engaged by them because I think they're just getting bored with the same old tired, AI is not very good. Yeah, just focus on the 20% and actually you'll find it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and that's what I found as someone who uses it daily. I use it. I mean, I do use it in my classroom, but very carefully, because it's. I mean, there's all sorts of policies with the school. There's also privacy policies with putting things out there. So I'm very, very cautious with it, and I think a lot of teachers. That's probably one of the reasons why a lot of people, teachers, are very nervous about using it because of the possible liability that may open up them or to the school.
Yeah.
Just with probably privacy issues are the biggest things. But what I found, like you said, is that workload behind the scenes, that it's just helping me get some of it's important work, but it's mundane and it's tiresome. But with the help of AI, it is able to I'm still able to do the important work, but I can do it a lot quicker. So then I can put my time back into my classroom, into coming up with some more creative things, or exploring AI and asking it, how can I make my classroom creative? And then getting a couple of ideas because I've got a colleague who's never going to get tired of answering my questions.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the whole thing with privacy, I think, is a massive, overblown. Just it's for me, it's a bit of an excuse for people not using it. So I can genuinely say, and I don't, I'm not very woke to be fair, and it's just, it is what it is. I'm not, I'm very, very aware of the world and how it is now, and I'm very respectful of all of that. I mean, you'll never hear me being kind of like Jordan Peterson style at all. That's not my thing. But I'm not. I'll say how I feel, and I'll say what I think, and I can genuinely say, in the year and a half I've used AI, and I'm using it heavily, obviously, because it's my job. I just have never been that worried about privacy or data protection. And the reason is, if I'm showing a school how they can use AI to assess a Macbeth essay, then where is the privacy? Where is the why are we so worried? Why are we so stressed about uploading our Macbeth essays to get some formative feedback? Yes, of course, you're probably not going to want to upload your school's MIS data to AI, but even then, just remove the surnames and use a GPT because it's a walled garden. I mean, if you've got the Teams account, you're protecting your data because it's not being used to train the model. But even then, just anonymize it, use a unique pupil identifier if you want to do some data analysis. There are ways we can get around this that can mean that we can actually leverage it quite powerfully. The other one is around the under 13 rules around ChatGPT, and it's actually under 18 for Claude and under 13 for Gemini. Yes, of course. If you're in a school, you shouldn't be giving your students unfettered access to ChatGPT if they're under 13. Fair enough. But it's not actually because of safeguarding. It's because of COPPA, FERPA, data protection laws in the US. That's generally, if you look at the terms and conditions, it actually sits around data protection because they can't give permission to share their personal data because they're under the age. So there's nothing to say that you can't start to use, obviously, AI in the classroom with under 13s. If the teacher's involved, if they're talking through, if you've got a terminal that's available for students to go and use and the TA can be with them, there's nothing to say that can't happen now. But I just feel like it's almost become a bit of an excuse that, oh no, I can't possibly use AI because it's safeguarding, it's illegal. It's not illegal. You're not going to be put in prison if you. I mean, I feel very strongly about this. I just feel like we are almost cutting off our nose to spite our face in education because we're stopping. I mean, my 8-year-old, he uses Perplexity, he uses Pi, he uses ChatGPT. And he's so responsible with how he uses them. He's using them as a tool, as a support. I don't have any issue. I'm not going to be in trouble because I'm with him and I'm around, and we're having conversations with Pi. Yeah. I'm far more worried about my kids having access to social media, having access to video games, violent video games, and yet we don't have these conversations. What about my AI? We know that at least 50% of under 13s are accessing a chatbot. And it's a GPT chatbot. We know this because my AI inside of Snapchat is powered by ChatGPT. And yet you can see how it just feels like we're kind of looking in the wrong direction, that we're focusing so much of our attention on the COPPA regulations and the terms and conditions, OpenAI's and Claude's terms and conditions, which of course as a school we have to. I'm not for one moment saying, forget them, just do what you like, don't worry about it, you'll be fine. But what I am saying is if you raise awareness with parents well enough and you use it within the terms, but also you're using it productively and kind of safely, you shouldn't use the under 13 law or rules, not even a law, the regular guidance, the guidelines, terms. You shouldn't use that as an excuse to just ban AI completely, because honestly, your kids are using it. They're using my AI. They're using it now. So I think it's really important for under primary schools and prep schools to be embracing it and to be teaching their students to use it properly.
Yeah, so do you think on top of that it comes down to educating parents more so? Because I mean,
all the adults
being in a school and obviously you being a leader of a school, you've probably had some very interesting conversations with parents about things, and it just comes down to when you discuss with them and tell them like, well, this is actually happening, or talk with them about what is happening. It's like, and it just seems to calm those tensions, and the temperature in the room drops. And I'm finding that I mean, just a number of things that you've said, I was, and I use it quite regularly, I was unaware of. So if I'm someone who's in education and using it regularly, and I'm unaware, so obviously there needs to be more education out there, and I'm assuming that's part of what Coxon AI does.
It is. I mean, one of the things I've noticed is that, particularly from my time last year with the school in Tunis, so I was the executive head of a school in Tunis. That's kind of how this all started, because I was running a school in Tunis, and we basically went all in with AI. And this was actually really early, when not really many of us were aware of things like under 13 shouldn't use it. Everyone was using it, and also it was North Africa, so I only got away with probably a little bit more. I mean, we were very, very safe. The teachers were always involved. Kids weren't just going off and using it willy-nilly. It was very controlled. But what I did is I actually did some awareness raising with the parents, not only showing them how we were going to use it academically, but actually also showing them how they could use it themselves. This is really powerful. And this is something I would always say is a very powerful tool for any leader wanting to bring any sort of change into school. You have to make it every stakeholder, you have to make it very pertinent to them and make them see the why for themselves. So, for example, I was doing some workshops where I'd show how you can use it for planning and brainstorming and actually what parents could do through that and seeing, I could use that myself in my own job. That's actually a really, really good idea, like writing emails or just doing some brainstorming and structuring ideas into a coherent strategic plan. And actually parents are like, oh my goodness, that's really, really helpful. And that was a really good way of getting parental buy-in and also made them trust us. Because the problem that we've got at the moment is a lot of the narrative around AI is, as I said right at the beginning, it's shady. We've had, all the hoo-ha with Sam Altman, and he was fired, now he's not, and we're hearing about big names like Meta and Google and what you've just mentioned about Google search, eat rocks and trap your dog in a hot car, and that makes people feel nervous about whether AI is trustworthy at all. And of course, you don't want to bring systems that are not trustworthy into your school, obviously. Because that's not a good look. We don't want kids eating rocks and putting glue in their pizzas in home economics. It's not that wouldn't be a very good idea. Taking their pizza home to their mum. Look, we've put glue in the pizza. It's not a good look. So I think that's the problem that some parents might have, is that they might see that AI is inherently not trustworthy. So I think if you can show them some simple ways that they can use it themselves, that's actually very, very powerful. And then it goes back to the 80-20 rule, that teachers should only be using it for that 20% of the time where it does add value, and making sure that we're really nurturing the 80%. For me, the 80% is about being a human, being the best human that you can possibly be, and let AI take charge of the other 20%.
Yeah, we've had that conversation online before about this. AI has the opportunity to make us more human by following that 80-20. AI is helping me do this. It's having a conversation with you, because there's stuff in the background. I'm spending a tremendous amount of time chatting with you, which is so valuable for both myself and the audience, and hopefully you. But then when I go off and edit, I've got a whole bunch of tools that will help me do it, that I don't have to learn about audio balancing and video, cleaning out the video quality and all that sort of stuff. It does it for me.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's given me the opportunity to have an amazing conversation. So
it's a really good point, actually. Yeah, it's a really good point. The intermediary layer that sits between the act and the reception of the act, if you like. So this is the act, we're talking, but then people will listen in further down the line. And actually what AI is able to do is things like balancing audio. I mean, I use Adobe Podcast, and Adobe Podcast Great's free, and you can just upload your audio to Adobe Podcast, and it will really, it gets rid of all of the echo, and it makes it sound like it's in a professional studio. Now that sort of thing you couldn't do before AI. So you're right. It's like lots of things that not only will save you time, but also enhance the experience we already have available to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know that through conversations and through things you've posted, that you were, and I think probably at times would still love to be, an avid photographer, but not a digital photographer.
Yeah.
The analog, and just bringing the craft and the art of photography. Now, a lot of people would say that the invention of the digital camera has put film to the side, and it's pointless. But I think now we look at artificial intelligence and generative artificial intelligence, which is putting maybe photography in itself to the side. So, as someone who likes and understands photography, how would you balance that argument?
Yeah, I mean, it will link very much, I think, probably very closely to your subject. In that, the reason I think it's so powerful, and the reason I think that people will want to gravitate back to craft is the importance of process, in that actually the joy of creation is held within process, not necessarily the end result. I mean, it's great to get an end result, whether you're creating a beautiful piece of furniture or you're creating a beautiful piece of art or music or a photographic image. That it's the process that you go through, which is where the joy is. And I think that we need that joy in our lives as human beings. I think humans need that feeling that they are inside the black box, working through the process. The problem we have with AI is that we're kept outside of the black box, in that we put in a text prompt in Midjourney, and it spits out a really amazing photograph at the end. And yet, when we're not involved in the bit from the beginning towards the end, that something happens with the diffusion model, because of its training and how it works with kind of essentially denoising. Won't go into the details now, but essentially the denoising process that goes on in the background, inside the black box, means that it goes from a text prompt to a final image. We're not involved in that, so it's empty, and it's quite superficial. And the reason that I at the moment don't have time, I literally don't have a moment to really even think about film photography. But the reason that I still have my film cameras and I still have my darkroom equipment packed away at the moment, but eventually at some point in the future I'll get it back out again, dust it off, is actually the process of craft for me is it's also a very meditative process. You know, you when you're in the darkroom with the red light and the smell of the chemicals, it's quite meditative. So I mean, my wife sort of says like a man cave, which kind of is.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've got your own. In fact, I think you might be in your man cave right now, actually, Phil.
I am. My recording studio is my workshop.
Yeah, there we are. Yeah, exactly. So it's where you control the process from end to end, and the only reason the object exists is because of you. You know, you've bought the materials, you've got the tools. It's your skill and your conceptual understanding of the process of craft which creates the final object. There's no other. You've got the tools, obviously, you need the tools, but that's it. The actual actor in the process is you, whereas the actor in the process with AI is the algorithm. And so I think that however expedient it is, and however fast it is, and however good it is, and however amazing the end result, and however faithful the end result is to reality, the fact remains that it's quite a soulless process. So I see AI more and more. I'd like to see AI more and more. It's just getting through the boring stuff, as you just said, that we don't want to do. It's like that quote that's now doing the rounds. It's gone a bit viral. You know, I don't want AI to do my writing and art, so I have to do the washing up and the dishes and the washing in the dishes. I want AI to do the washing and the dishes, so I can do the writing and the art. It's that thing that I want to be involved in, the craft, the process. That's why I love to write, because when I write, it's my process. It's not AI's process. I'm in charge of the process. I'm not giving that process to something else that may do a really good job, but then I publish it and I just feel empty. You know, I just think that's not me. I'm just publishing. I'm happy for it to write an action plan or write a policy or write, you know, kind of process document, process writing, sort of lower order. Happy for it to do that, because then I can focus on the creative stuff. So I think, you know, the reason that I've become interested again in photography and darkroom and film photography is I also think that the end result's different. So if you look, so I use medium format. I use a Pentax 6.7 to medium format film. If you look at the quality of the output with a Pentax or a Hasselblad or a Mamiya, it doesn't really matter, but a medium format film camera, even the best digital facsimile, you know, even like the Hasselblad digital version, they're different. There's a plasticity to the final Hasselblad or Leica, or it doesn't matter, whatever the Canon or Nikon digital image, there's a plasticity to it, which is very different from the look of a film image. Just is. There's you can't, and I don't think digital will ever be able to truly replicate the the way that a film image looks. So maybe, because I've worked with film for so many years. I mean, I've worked with film now for 40 years now. So I've been working with film as a film photographer for 40 years. So I kind of know, because I spent so much time with film. But I think maybe to the untrained eye less so, but certainly from my perspective, I can definitely see the difference. So it's the craft and it's the valuing of the end product, because you kind of know that what's wrapped up in that end product is sweat and tears and inspiration, like a beautiful handcrafted piece of furniture versus something I've thrown together from IKEA. That's the same thing. I can sit on a chair and eat at the table. It's the same. I mean, it's the same functional purpose. And yet there's something about the handcrafted piece of furniture which speaks to the process and speaks to the skill of the person. And I think the reason that all of this is so important right now, so important that we don't lose this, is because actually what makes us human is our connection with other people. And that connection with other people doesn't just come from what we're doing now, sort of talking, whether it be face-to-face or online. It actually comes from the objects that we surround ourselves with, and the history and the provenance and of the things around us, that we will crave more and more human connection the more we have a digital world, which is is mediated through machine learning, through artificial intelligence and so on. So I think that's why, for me, things like film photography, however niche they are, however expensive they are, because unbelievably expensive, buying film now, it's insanely expensive. However niche and expensive they are, I still think there will always be a place for them, while there are resources that we can buy to support these hobbies.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more about just the touch, the personality that you put into it. It's you have your, I don't know a lot about being in the darkroom. I know, I did a little bit in high school, but it's the difference of going, okay, I need to leave it in for 5 minutes, or I need to leave it in for 5 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
To get the look that I want.
Yeah.
I don't know, when I handcraft things, it's the imperfections in the job that make it perfect.
Because they're human. Because the imperfections are human, and we are, and we're imperfect.
Yeah, and that's what I love it. Look, your passion for photography has just shone so brightly there. So thanks for that. I appreciate it. Now, look, it's we're getting on. And I'm very aware of how busy you are and things that you need to do. So I want to be respectful of that. But just to wrap up a little bit more about the Darren Coxon, I got a couple of quick questions before we wrap up. So, favorite drink?
My favorite drink, coffee.
Yeah,
no doubt. Yeah, definitely. I can't survive without a very large, strong cup of coffee every morning. I don't drink particularly alcohol. I'll occasionally have a glass of wine, maybe a pint of Guinness, but I don't drink generally. So it's definitely coffee.
Coffee. Well, all right. Well, next time if I ever get to the London area anytime, or north of London, I'll definitely buy you a coffee.
Awesome.
Now, look, over the years, I've made mistakes, and people have spoken to me in ways that probably weren't the politest, but every now and then you get an insult is thrown at you that you're actually quite proud of. One of my ones was I was called a neophyte for thinking about bringing a 3D printer into a classroom. So I'm pretty proud of that one. But what's one of the favourite insults that you may have received over the years?
Gosh, that's a really tough question. Favourite insults? I suppose, again, I don't want this to be misread by anyone, because I'm just very aware of making sure I don't say the wrong thing. But I was
say the wrong thing all the time.
Yeah, no, maybe I shouldn't worry too much. But I think I was accused not that long ago of being a white male, and I'm really sorry, I can't help. But a white middle class, middle-aged, not middle class, middle-aged, white middle-aged man, and I guess. And it was kind of phrased like a bit of an insult. And I mean, it didn't. It's like, well, I can't help that. When I was born and who I was born to, no more than anyone can in the world. So I think that's probably. I don't think I was a favourite. I think I was a bit kind of. I remember writing a response and then deleting it, thinking, no, that's not the right thing. You know how you do. I mean, do it all the time. I mean, often write really pointed responses to people on LinkedIn, and I think, well, what? Who's? It's just going to make me look churlish and a bit kind of petty. So I'm not going to bother. I'm defensive. But I did think that's something that kind of makes me aware of in some respects, my privilege, but also the pressures that come on being a certain demographic that I can't help.
Yeah.
I mean, really good example, my adopted daughter, we adopted from Rwanda, from an orphanage in Rwanda. Very different world, entirely different world that she came from. And yet she is the least concerned about all that than anyone I know. She just gets on with her life, and I think that's what I'm trying to do myself. I'm just trying to get on with my life, and not everyone's going to agree with me. That's fine, but I'm going to keep doing what I'm passionate about, in the way that she's doing what she's passionate about. And then what I genuinely don't know what more we can do. I mean, I just think we just need to do the best we can. Help as many. My philosophy is quite simple. I just try and help as many people as I can, and then. It's literally my philosophy is I'm going to help as many people as I can and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, look, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with that attitude. That's for sure. Now you've travelled around parts of the world. You've been, to North Africa, United Kingdom, Europe. What is the country that you'd least want to visit?
Well, I mean, I've been to places that I wouldn't want to go back to. Not because of the people, because the people are incredible, just because of the challenges of living. Places like Dhaka in Bangladesh, incredibly challenging place to be and live. And I worked at a school there for a while with and the teachers there were extraordinary, and I have so much respect for people to work there because there's no green space, terrible pollution, unbelievably crowded, nothing to do, but the most beautiful, delightful people I think I've ever met. But a very, very challenging place. I'm not that keen to go back there, but there is nowhere on earth, genuinely nowhere on earth, that I wouldn't want to visit, because I just think that however difficult the place is, it's always going to hold something which is going to help you learn about yourself, help you learn about the world, help you learn about other people. So no, I'm always up for going to visit new places. No doubt.
Well, you're the third person that I've asked that, and all three of my guests are restoring my faith in humanity, because everyone has said it's not that I wouldn't want to go there because people are amazing everywhere, but there are certain challenges with being in certain areas that I'm not equipped for.
Yeah.
So, but it's got nothing to do with the people. It's generally got to do with just the outlook is amazing. So yeah, that's awesome. Second last question before we wrap right up is, being the Tattoo Teacher podcast, I have to ask you this: do you have any tattoos?
No, I don't. I was actually going to say, one of the first things I was going to say was, it may be the Tattoo Teacher podcast, but only 50% of the people on this podcast have tattoos. No, I'm completely tattooless.
Well, you're keeping it 50-50 so far. I'm going to have to tip it all a poll on tattooed versus non-tattooed guests. So. At the moment, out of the guests, the non-tattooed guests will win. So
there we are. You see.
There we go. Now, last but certainly not least, you have a passion, and you are out there. You are sharing your skills, knowledge, and resources. But where can people go to find out more about you? And I will put this in the show notes as well.
Yeah, sure. I mean, most of the work I do here is on LinkedIn. So yeah, you can access. I'm just in the process of setting up a company. It's taken me a while because I just couldn't work out on the right name. I'm still not quite there yet. Keep changing my mind, which is very me. But I want to set up more of a kind of a trading entity. So set up a company. So there'll be a website soon. But yeah, so LinkedIn, Gumroad, all of my resources, my books, they're all. I just give them away for free, so they're all on Gumroad. But yeah, those are probably the places where you're going to find. There's also a course I've done, which I can give you the link to. You can stick that in the show notes, which is a kind of a 6-hour introduction to AI course, which I recorded with the Independent Schools Partnership here in the UK. So I think LinkedIn plus those two sites probably are the best places to find out what I'm doing and how I might be able to help.
Brilliant. Well, I know I appreciate it for all that you've done. You've certainly helped guide me through some of the perils and challenges, but also the amazingness, if that's a word. I'm not an English teacher.
It's a word.
As one old colleague says, I'm just part of the cutties and stickies. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate all that you've done for us and all that you're doing for the world of education globally.
Thanks, Phil.
So literally, I'm here in Australia, and his colleagues are in various countries around the world. So you are appreciated. I appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing with us here on the Tattooed Teacher podcast, and have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, Phil. Really good to meet you. Good to see you as well. Good to chat.
Cheers. Thank you for listening to the Tattooed Teacher podcast. I hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it insightful. If you like what you heard, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with your network. Special thanks to DJ Fruit Salad for the music. You can find more of his work on Instagram at DJ Fruit Salad Official. Thanks again for listening, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Stay cool, be blessed.